announce the live stream. Welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning into the live stream. So glad you joined us. Totally didn't start yet. So hey, a few people. Hey, Flowers, Joey. How's it going? How's being sick? Hannah, how's it going? All right. There's people like tuning in this time. Okay. All right. Announcement number one: CIT. That Spring Hill is coming and from July 5th through the 9th, and they need help for CIT. So if you would like to be a part of that, you can sign up online. That's where the signups are, and it's a really good opportunity to serve and be a part of what Spring Hill is doing this year. It's a cool thing. So I'd encourage you to do that. Sign up online for July 5th through the 9th. But there is another awesome ministry opportunity, and that is a mission trip. We are doing our Detroit mission trip this year from January 20th to 26th. I meant June. That's what I said. Okay, jeez, goodness. I don't know what's happening in my brain. June 20th to 26th. That would be a terrible mission trip if we went in January. That would be cold. But in June 20th, 26th, we are going to Detroit, and it's going to be awesome. All of the Oak Point family is going to be going. So there's going to be multiple churches there, and it's a really cool thing to be a part of. So I'm honestly getting giddy, like even planning it, because I did this as a high schooler, and so I'm like remembering all these fun things and these parts about it. It's just going to be really cool. So sign up also online and on hard copy, because we have hard copies on the blue table over there. And there's an application process. So you are turning in an application, not just a registration. And it is going to be $300 to go. But if that seems like it's steep for you, don't worry, because it is a mission trip, which means part of going on mission trips is going to be raising funds. So the money is not meant to be a deterrent. It's a part of the service for the people of Detroit. So that's what's going on there. Sign up for Detroit. It's going to be awesome. June 20th to 26th. It's like, how long does it go to? That's going to be sweet. All right. Next announcement is 707 All-Nighter. Here we go. Woo! 707 All-Nighter's coming. That's in like 2 weeks, guys. How crazy is that? So it's in 3 Fridays. Think about it like that. It's in 3 Fridays, on April 30th to May 1st. We basically got it planned. Like we got it planned. We got it going. Like we're really excited about it. We got laser tag. We got pizza. We're gonna try to do a bunch of stuff outside too. It's gonna be sweet. And it's 10 o'clock p.m. on April 30th, and it ends 6 o'clock a.m. on May 1st. So it is all night, and it is going to be sweet. And we are moving forward on it. So it is. Here's the deal. Shh. You got to register for it. You don't just show up. And so it's $20, and the registration is online. Please register for it so that we know who's coming. You can't just show up. You got to register for it ahead of time. Okay. So do that whenever you can. As soon as possible would be great. Right now would be awesome. And our last announcement is new. This is the first time we're doing this. We're going to do a girls' getaway, and we're calling it Fierce. May 22nd to May 23rd. Did they just kind of play on the guys' stronger getaway? Kind of, but you know what? It's fine. It's totally fine. Fierce. I don't know if it's better, but like I don't know. But either way, it's going to be May 22nd to the 23rd. It's $75, and it's going to be at the Howell Nature Center, and it's just for the ladies. And so that's going to be awesome for that. Oh, that's like an old camp picture. Oh, that's like bring back memories. That's cool. Okay. Anyway, sign up for Fierce. It's going to be cool. I mean, I'm not going to be there, but I'm sure it's going to be really cool. So, what's that? Yes, there's a birthday in the house today, everybody. And it is Lila Rabine! Woo! Lila, you know what to do. You have no choice. It's just going to happen. There you go. All right, everybody, let's give her a warm happy birthday on 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lila. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! There you go. Give him a round of applause. It's a special day. Oh man, it's so great. I love him. I love it especially when they like really don't want to stand on the chair. That makes me like want to make them stand like so much more. So it's great. All right, guys, ready for staff chat? We got our very own beloved, super handsome devil who is back from a long hiatus because of baby life extraordinaire. So just been new baby just came and he's back with us and he is doing a staff chat and he's coming in hot. He's Bryce Robbins. Here it comes. Woo! There he is.
Long pause. All right, everyone. How y'all doing? So the topic of tonight, I'm sure you guys are aware, is piggybacking off of a topic that came up last week, which was about dating and relationships. And I thought, what better way to celebrate talking about relationships than some awkward pictures of myself from middle school and high school. So we're going to do a little evolution of the Bryce. And we're going to keep it really short and sweet because I don't get a lot of time up here. So I just thought, why not just start this out with some embarrassment? So let's get started. So let's start with the first photo. There's this guy. Pretty darn cute. And we have one before that too. Gotta go a little earlier. No, just kidding. This is my son Ben. And he's the reason why I've been missing you guys. Is that he kind of came into the world during COVID. And I needed to give some time for my wife and for him to protect him, and he is just amazing. But that's kind of exactly what I looked like too when I was a baby. Let's move on to back to the blue guy here. So blue guy here, this handsome gent. This is about 5-6 years old for me. Just kind of take it down a little notch here. My parents divorced at this time, and so this guy here. Speaking of relationships, experienced the separation between my mom and my dad and trying to understand that as a young child. And then also kind of understanding, picking up on the brokenness that comes behind it, is that I had to kind of play the, oh, I'm just fine and happy when I'm with my mom, and oh, it's so bad when I'm with my dad, and vice versa. And that kind of was something that latched onto me, is something I would take into my relationships is like, I have to cater to the person that I'm with. That's an important thing, is what I identified as a young age, because my mom remarried within 1 year, and my dad dated for like 4 to 5 years before he remarried. So I kind of got, oh, this is what relationships are. If something doesn't work, you kind of swap it out. And so I kind of took that into what I understood to be relationships. And just kind of giving you the background, I didn't have mentors. I didn't have people I could talk to about relationships. I mean, I could go to my parents, but it would be a very awkward situation. I didn't have a youth group that was old enough to talk about relationships. When it came to relationships, it was just like, no relationships. And the big topic was, always about where you don't go in relationships. It wasn't how to do relationships. Okay, so let's move on from this little guy. So then we have this guy in grade school who, at this time, this is like when you're trying your best to look as good as this guy. But no, relationships when I was around them were like, ooh, can I hold someone's hand on the playground? Are we going to the fair? There was a big, obviously you want to like somebody, and I one girl that I really liked in elementary school, and I thought she was the cat pajamas, and she played me for a fool. But it was just more about the infatuation over, hey, there's girls, and oh, I should be looking at them, or oh, I should be liking them. Let's move on from this guy. All right, so this is middle school, Bryce. So this guy had the most awkward experience going, trying to jump into the relationship world. Because obviously if you like somebody, you bring them a flower at middle school in front of other people. That's the rom-com way to show somebody you like that. So I did that, and it went not exactly how I pictured it. It was like the most awkward situation you could possibly imagine. It's like one of those things, like you're watching one of those movies, you're watching The Office, and you're like, oh, please turn it, fast forward it. So I go back to that, but Rico Suave here, came out of elementary school being like, I don't know, maybe cooler than he thought he was. Coming down in the 6th grade where everyone's a nobody, and really kind of struggling to figure out who he needed to be, and started to kind of mold myself for the person that I was trying to go after. Because again, that was the secret code that you passed between each other. It's like, don't be yourself. You should be somebody completely different. Let's move on from this guy. All right, so this is high school Bryce. This is just way too cool for himself. This was a very confusing time for me because I was, again, trying to put myself into all these different places, trying to be the person that the other person expected me to be. And I got pretty good at it. I got to the point where, again, the goal in my high school mind was not Christian relationship. It wasn't founded on what is the purpose of having a relationship and following Jesus and really treating each other. You're not going into a relationship with respect. You're going into a relationship because you have goals to achieve. And as a guy, I know that seems kind of low, but that's what happens when you're entering into relationships without Jesus and not following Jesus and not having him in your life and not centering your life around how to treat others using God's word. So there really wasn't a scope for me. So what I found from that, and I've kind of shared this with my small group, but now you can picture it, was that this guy really struggled with the fact that he was creating havoc in girls' lives, effectively. Not just like, you're trying to be that person, you're pretending to be somebody you're really not, and trying to get somebody like them, and then they kind of, you're kind of putting everything into the relationship. The dopamine's going crazy, like we talked about last week. But then it turns into, okay, the goal of the relationship is to be in a relationship. Okay, the goal from the relationship is that this relationship is supposed to make me happy and do everything it's supposed to do, right? No, it wasn't, and it ended up with being unhappy and being self-conscious and being insecure meant that I kind of felt that I had to be a star to my friends, my buds, my bros, that I had to overachieve. I had to go after girls that are way out of my league and, and step on a little bit of the people that were around me that I think that ultimately I really missed out on having really good friendships and good relationships and actually being able to continue to have good friendships today with those people because I have all these little starters, with these relationships that didn't go really well. And now I never talk to those people again. So I have these history with these people that I don't have any connection to or can't have any connection to again. It's kind of sad. It's kind of like you've left a bunch of books that you really liked and then just you can't ever go back and read them. And it just kind of was wasted time for me, and it made me sad. It made me kind of feel, it was just a tough time where I felt, even though it kind of looked like I was doing to my friends that I was doing really good, or, I had a girlfriend who was heading to college, so I was kind of a cool guy, and I was, also kind of interested in the girl that was in my senior class, and none of it ended well. And for them, I think that I left a lot of distrust with those girls that I was being around because my goals were completely out of whack. And I didn't really know that. I didn't have anyone to go to. I didn't have a life group leader that could speak to me about this. I didn't have anyone that I trusted. I didn't trust my parents to talk about this. I didn't have a pastor that I could, hey, can I grab lunch and kind of talk to you about what's going on in my life? These are things that are very important. So I encourage you in high school world to grab somebody that you can relate to or just explain or just be a sounding board off to. And then surround yourself with people that are not going after those things. Because if all your friends are kind of thinking the same thing, they're going after the same things for relationships and they're not really, good, you're going to be going after this, and you've been wondering why you don't go after those things. So it's really, again, when your parents say, well, who you surround yourself, it really does. And that goes all the way into your adult. Let's get past this dude. And this is my wedding. So this is my post-wedding after marrying my wife. I still wasn't living godly principles at this time. We both were going into this relationship with full dopamine surge power, thinking that everything was going to come from being married. Once you're married, everything's going to be perfect, and the person's just going to complete you and surround you, and you're never going to have any problems again, and that that's everything is on the relationship. And it was so heavy on the relationship that we had these terrible blow-up fights. I have a scar on my wrist from a fight where I fell back, doing something stupid or whatever, and I caught myself and I broke a bone, and I had that scar that I constantly look at. And, with that, I mean, there's just so much brokenness when you put everything on somebody. Like, your happiness is just revolved on. The relationship has to work because you pictured it, and it's going to go forever, and it's always going to be great, and you're never going to have any difficulties in your life. Skipping past that to this.
Or not.
Now I have 3 daughters. And now God gave me these 3 daughters so I can take what I've learned and pass that on to them. And all the things that I've learned about how to be a dad, how to be a father, how to be a husband in a way that will affect them to what they're looking for in a relationship is not what I saw when you saw the little 5-year-old me. Is like, oh, this is what relationships are about. Oh, I watch Friends. I know exactly what relationships are about. Oh, these are how the rom-coms. This is how you woo, the opposite sex when you want to have a relationship. No, it's a foundation of putting godly principles in your life, following godly principles, and when you're ready and you feel that you've done the double checks on yourself, and you have a mentor that you can talk to make sure that you're not going into this just full-blown dopamine world. You can really objectively look at, is this a good relationship or not? It's a good relationship. And so this guy is the improved one. And it took way too long for me to get to where I needed to be to have a successful relationship and bring that to my marriage. And hopefully bring it to those 3 little girls. And teach a son how to do it. That's deep. It's going to be hard. All right, well, thank you.
Can I just, before we start worship, can I just point out one thing? Can you put that picture up, Kristen? She knows what I'm talking about. Okay. This looks very, very much like a certain actor who was left alone in his home. Can you put it up there? It didn't go through? This is Michaela Culkin, guys. Macaulay Culkin? Macaulay? I don't know. Whatever you say his name. He's home alone. Like, that's totally who he is. Right? Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know how we're going to worship out of that. I just couldn't handle it as I was looking at this thing. All right, you can put it down now. All right, guys, the band's going to come up. We're going to do some worship.
Yeah, Perry. No.
Go ahead and stand up, guys. All right, guys. We're just gonna get going here. And guys, this is, as we worship right now, this is an opportunity to get our hearts ready to hear from the Lord, to understand what He's telling us, and that means we get to sing in victory and the power that He's given us. So let's just pray. Let's come before Him, and let's just enjoy this time of worship in His presence. Let's be refreshed in that. Heavenly Father, Lord, we love You. God, we thank You for the hope and the truth that You do give us you do give us hope when it comes to the relationships with the people in our life, Lord. Not just all of them, every relationship we have with people around us, Lord, whether it's friends, family, or otherwise, Lord, it's meant to be what glorifies you, Lord. You're meant to come first, and when we put you first in all things, Lord, we get to live in the way that you've actually called us for. We get to live in the way that you've designed us and created us for, and that is a life of true freedom, Lord. So we thank you for bringing us freedom. We thank you for bringing us deliverance. Help us to live in that joy and that freedom right now as we worship you, and we praise you for that. God, we pray this in your name. Amen. Forget the wonder of how you brought deliverance, the exodus of my heart. You found, you freed, held back the waters to my release. Oh Yahweh, you're the God who fights for me, Lord of every victory. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea. You have led me through the deep. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. My day is a sign that you are with me. By night is the guiding light for my feet. Oh, now you free me, bound back the waters to my release. Oh, Yahweh, you're the God who fights for me, Lord of every victory. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea. You have led me through the deep. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. You are God who fights for me. Lord of every victory. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea. You have led me through the deep. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I am joy and freedom in His presence. Sing it out, He set me to our Egypt, and have freedom and deliverance. You stepped into my Egypt, you turned me by the hand. You watched me out in freedom, into the promised land. Now I will not forget you, I'll sing of all you've done. Take us from forever. And the beauty of your love, you stepped into my Egypt, you took me by the hand, you marched me down in freedom, to the promised land. Now I will not forget you, I see all you've done. Take us forward up forever, and the beauty of your love. You're the God who fights for me, Lord of every victory. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea, you have led me through the deep. Hallelujah, hallelujah. You are the God who fights for me. Lord of every victory, hallelujah, hallelujah. You have torn apart the sea, you have led me through the deep, hallelujah, hallelujah. Bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. Let your grace all the sea is still. The rage of me is still. Every day, let your name, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. All these bones to live, all these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Your name is alive, and the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, 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 Jesus. Your name is alive that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, and the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, Jesus, Jesus.
the darkness tremble, Jesus,
Yes, Lord, you make the darkness tremble. God, and every dark thing in our life, Lord, goes away at the sound of your name, Lord. You have been so good to us, God. We lift you up in our goodness. Love you, Lord. Your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, that I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
your voice. You have led me through the fire and in darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God.
So He's been over you all your life.
All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God.
Right now, as we continue to worship Him and give Him glory, let's think about all the times that we've not felt His presence, and we felt that He's been silent, and know the truth, that He's not been silent, and He's never left or forsaken us.
Your goodness is running out, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything, Lord. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Oh, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Constantly, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. My life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything, Lord. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Ooh, all my life you have been faithful. You're so faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. Every breath that I am able, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
Let's just sing that one more time then. Last time. Oh, all my life you have been faithful.
All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, will I can sing of the goodness of God. Oh, we will sing. I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Heavenly Father, Lord, your goodness is not contingent on our faithfulness, Lord. You call us to be faithful to you. But Lord, you still give us our grace and mercy we need for every single morning. Lord, your mercies are new for every single morning. God, we thank you for that truth. We thank you for that life. And Lord, as we just open up your word tonight, pray that you would speak to us, and that we would listen to you and no one else. God, I pray this in your name, your holy name. Amen. Guys, I'm going to sing. Whew. All right. All right, guys, tonight I'm just going to warn Wes. I got his battery's low, so just might cut out. We'll see what happens. We'll see if it cuts out or if we can just say, not today, Satan. Oh, there it is. There it goes. I need the battery.
I can see that.
I know, Satan's just attacking, guys. That means it's going to be good. When Satan attacks, you know it's going to be really good. So here we go. This is going to be an act of the Lord, just taking away Satan's power. There you go. Battery.
I killed the battery.
Oh. There we go. All right. Not today, Satan. Not today. All right, guys. Last week we were we're continuing in our sub-series on dating from last week, and this is one of those things that if you didn't see last week where we introduced it by asking the question. Oh gosh, it's just like it's just the connection. We'll just see if it just keeps going. I don't know. Well, this mic is just going on and off. We'll just see. But it's going to be helpful if you didn't get last week to watch it after tonight, because we talked about some things last week that were very informative and very good to understand about the human brain, and asking the question like, what is love? Like, how does it actually work in our minds? When you get the warm fuzzy feels from someone else, and they just smell so good, and they just look so pretty. Like, what is going on in your mind? What's happening in that moment, right? And like we talked about how God wired us. How God wired us to look at love and relationships is really important, to then asking the question, well, then how do I do it right? How do I do dating and relationships right? How do I approach this in a way that is honoring to the Lord and then follows his will instead of going outside of his will and making huge mistakes that I will later regret? And this is really important for us to understand, is that this magical buffer period of childhood, where childishness doesn't have a lot of consequences, is kind of over for you guys. I'm sorry. I'm just bursting your bubble. That like wonderful little bubble, there it goes, right there. That I just did it. That wonderful little buffer where like you were as a child, you are childish when you're a child, typically. And there's not a lot of consequences for that. When you're 5, childishness doesn't have a ton of consequences. If you're mad about the food that your parents made for you when you're 5, not to name any names, Topher, then, right, let's say you throw the fork on the floor and you get mad about it, no one really gets hurt except for his or her parents' feelings. You know, that's it. But the older you get, childishness suddenly has consequences that can be life-altering. The older you get. This is one of the reasons why parents discipline their children, is to insert consequences for childishness and immaturity, so that children start to learn that childishness, immaturity, and sin, they produce bad results. It's one of the purposes of discipline. Childishness while driving can result in a car crash. It can result in a life-altering car crash that can involve you or someone else, and it can change your life. I will never forget driving on the highway with my little brother as a brand new, like 17, 18-year-old driver. And I was just trying to impress my little brother. And I was like speeding way too fast in the left lane, and it was in the middle of the winter, and that lane merged really quickly, and suddenly I'm like just on snow. I'm just on straight snow. And the car starts fishtailing. I'm in like a minivan. And it was just, I just remember that moment. And nothing happened. We didn't like spin out or anything. But I managed to get back in the lane. I just looked at him and I was like, that could have been really bad. That could have been really, really bad. I'm going really fast on the highway. And that was super dangerous. And I should never do that again. And it changed me because I just realized that my childishness that I had always had, which is trying to impress people, I copy and paste that into driving, and suddenly I can end someone's life just like that. It's crazy how that happens. Childishness in kindergarten means that you have to spend some time in time out. But childishness in high school with your grades could make the difference of your future career options and the colleges that you go to. And childishness while dating can lead to huge mistakes that will stay with you for the rest of your life. There's just not as much room for childishness anymore. So last week, we also gave this verse, 1 Corinthians 6:20, to show that God is not a passive, indifferent party to our lives. God says this, he says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore honor God with your bodies." God is not indifferent to your life. He deeply cares for what you do. He deeply cares for how you approach love and dating in the way that he created you to experience it, which is awesome, by the way. He created you to experience it in an incredible way. And last week we started to simply ask, well, how did God create us? How did he wire the brain? How did he make it? We looked at the brain, how the brain operates in a relationship. And in the beginning of a relationship, our brains are filled with this chemical called dopamine. And I just think that's appropriate that the beginning syllable of dopamine is dope, because that's kind of what it is. It's the most powerful pleasure chemical the body has. But over time, this chemical stops dominating the nature of the relationship. It eventually stops being the dominant chemical in your relationship. And the decisions you make in this dopamine-induced state, you may have a lot less control than you realize. Love is a powerful force that few people are actually ready for. It can lead you to completely abandon standards and principles that you might have had even weeks before, days before, hours before. It can also be an incredibly fun and healthy time to kick off a really healthy relationship towards a lifelong one in marriage. It can be any of those things. God created it. It's a good thing. But it can also be dangerous. It's good and it's normal, but it can also lead to a lot of pain. It can also lead to a lot of brokenness and trauma. And last week we ended the message with Genesis 5:25. Galatians. That's very different. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. And being led by God means being led in this jungle of dating world, past the emotional and physical pitfalls and traps of pain and despair, and into a good, healthy, wonderful relationship where you experience love to the fullest extent that God created you for. So how do you know if you're ready for it? You should be asking that question. That should be a question that comes across your mind. If you've never asked this question, am I ready for dating? Either that's because you never thought about dating, or all you think about is dating. But if you've never asked this question, you're probably not ready for it. Because this question is the most important question that you have to ask before you start. Dating and relationships are huge decisions that open you up to a whole world of potential pitfalls. So isn't it important to know before you dive into it whether or not you're even ready to try? That's incredibly important. The world will tell you, and you'll see it with people around you, in high school, in the media, and with anybody, that all it takes to be ready for dating is to want it. That's it. Like, if you have feelings, then that's it. That's enough. You should be dating. Like, that's it. But imagine if we live the rest of our world that way. Like, imagine if we actually function that way as a society. if all took to be ready for something was to want it or desire it, and that means that you're ready for it. Like, all it takes for a 10-year-old to be ready to drive is wanting to drive. A 10-year-old walks up to you and is like, I think I'm ready to drive because I want to. And you're like, that's good enough for me, son. Here's the keys. Go have fun, right? Like, what if we did that? That would be insane. Or like, imagine an 18-year-old kid having the desire to go out in an army uniform and fight ISIS in the Middle East. Would an army recruiter just like hand him a weapon and a ration pack and say, go get him, Tiger, and like go send him to the front line? Like, no. You would train, and you would have to send him to boot camp and teach him how to be a soldier, right? If you want to be a doctor, just wanting to be one doesn't mean you're ready to start practicing on live patients when it comes to surgery. Okay, like wanting something doesn't automatically make you ready for something, right? A desire for something doesn't just automatically make you ready for it. And dating is no different. That doesn't mean that you can't be ready for it. You can. Just ask these questions. When am I ready to date? Ask these questions. Number one, you're ready to date when your heart is secure. That's the first thing. When your heart is secure. We live in an incredibly insecure world. And it's hard for us to recognize the power of someone filling an insecure hole inside of us. In this world, relationships promise a level of emotional security that you feel like you really need. And much of this comes from the power of comparison. A lot of this is going to come from this, which is one of the greatest ways of being lied to. Because when you compare yourself to someone in your life, or when you compare yourself to men or women on social media, to TV, movies, or whatever, you're comparing what you know about yourself with what you don't know about someone else. Every time. Every single time. If you compare yourself to someone else, regardless of where you're getting information from, you're comparing what you do know about yourself with what you don't know about someone else. And this is one of the problems with social media that we already talked about in this series, is that it easily cracks the foundation of your heart with insecurity. Easily. It inserts the question that wasn't there before. It inserts the question, am I okay? Am I attractive enough? Do people like me enough? Am I wanted? Suddenly those questions start building up in your heart. And this insecurity puts us in a really dangerous place because it opens us up to filling that insecurity with a false God. Girls' and guys' insecurities are similar but different, and they have their own pitfalls. They're different. Girls often, not always, this is not every single one, but often girls can compare beauty and attraction and likability to others to feel that they're lacking this very easily. When you look in the mirror and you don't see what you want to see, especially when you compare it to what you see outside of that mirror and other people. Many guys don't think that any girls would really love them if they knew what was inside. Many guys feel that they're not strong enough, they're not athletic enough, they're not intelligent enough, or attractive enough, or outgoing enough. Guys often have a huge fear of rejection and failure and question what it means to be a man. This is a normal process to go through. And throughout many different cultures, but notably in the Jewish culture that Jesus grew up in, Jesus would have went through this. There was a rite of passage experience for a man. That was normal. It was called the bar mitzvah. If you've ever heard of a bar mitzvah, and you just picture people going like, hey, like, I don't know what you picture when you picture a bar mitzvah, but it's actually really special. It's a rite of passage experience for a man. It affirms a man coming of age. Other men in your life come alongside you, show you what it means to be a man, what it takes to be a man, and follow the Lord. Then you're celebrated as going from boyhood to manhood, with your loved ones around you all affirming it and throwing a party. Right? We don't have anything like that today, right? And notably and importantly, there's a lot of insecurity and confusion about what it means to be a man and whether or not they have what it takes to be one. You guys ever wonder why scam artists exist? Have you ever heard or gotten one on a text or a call or an email and thought, this is so easy to see through, I can't believe this works? Right? Like, have you ever experienced that? And you're like, why are you wasting your time with this? Is this all you do with your life? You just scam people and you try the best you can? Like, how does There's no way this works. Like, how could this possibly work? It's so obvious. The reason that they do it is because it works. Because it actually works really, really well. People who scam are amazing at it. A couple people that are close to us, and I'm not going to say their name. I'm not going to say the name because they go to this church. I'm just going to call him Bob. Okay, I'm going to call him Bob. He's a good friend of mine, and recently had a really bad experience with a scammer. He got a call of someone saying, "Hey, I'm from your bank." They gave a bunch of very legitimate information to make it sound like they were from his bank, saying, "We've reported a red flag in your account. You need to log in and just make sure everything's okay." So he logs in, and the person was like, "Do you see this? Do you see this?" He's like, "I do see that." And they're like, "Okay, you need to just put this little code in your URL." He's like, "Okay," and he did that. And without realizing it, suddenly gave this scammer control of his computer monitor. And then he's like, "Okay, now look at your account. Do you see anything happening?" He's like, "Oh my gosh, my checking account is losing money, like right now. It's starting to drain money." And they're like, "Oh no, it's what we feared. I need your information, this, I need your password, I need your mother's date of birth." Like suddenly they start going out of line, and he's freaking out because he's seeing the money go out of his account. He's like, "Oh my gosh," and he gives them everything they asked for over and over. And suddenly they're like, "Okay, we'll get right on it and let you know." And they hang up, and all the money was gone from their account, their checking and their savings. Yeah. This guy is not gullible or stupid. He's actually really smart. He's incredibly smart. So how did that work? Because they successfully got him into this heightened state of fear and insecurity over his finances so that he opened up to being lied to. And in the end, he was preyed on. Now, happy ending. He managed to get the money back. It worked out. But it was obviously really traumatic, right? Like it was really hard. They needed him in that state of insecurity and vulnerability in order for this to work. If they had just called up and said, "Hey, I'm from your bank. I need your mother's date of birth and your social security number," and he wouldn't have given it to them. But they managed to get him in this place of huge fear and insecurity, and suddenly he opened up his wallet out of fear. When our heart is insecure, when we feel that we need a relationship to be whole, you open yourself up to be hurt and trust in something false. You may choose someone you wouldn't have if you were thinking clearly. Even if you choose someone who's good or in a stable person, you won't be stable enough to sustain a healthy relationship, and it won't last. A relationship will feel good, and it'll feel like it will solve this insecurity at first, especially when you're filled with dopamine, but that's not going to last, as we talked about last week. It won't fill this insecurity. It will make you a needy and jealous person in the meantime. When God is not filling this insecure hole, you end up going from one relationship to the next, desperately trying to fill this void in your heart. And each one gives you a taste of that insecurity being filled, but it never works. It never holds. And it changes you into someone who's more insecure in the process. These insecurities will affect you partially because it's part of the process of transitioning from childhood to adulthood. Part of it is normal, and it's just going to happen regardless. But also because we live in a broken world full of comparison, and this world attacks you with lies and damage the safeness and the security that your heart didn't experience before as a child. But regardless of how you have them, only God can fill them. Is the only one. And they need to be filled by him first before you turn towards someone else in a relationship. Listen to David's psalm at the end of 63, Psalm 63, singing to the Lord. It says, "You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. I've seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and glory, because your love is better than life. My lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. I will be fully satisfied as with the richest of foods, and singing lips my mouth will praise you." Does David sound like he's an insecure guy just waiting for his soulmate to show up so we can finally be whole and start living? No. He's so satisfied, he compares it to eating the richest of food. So picture your favorite filling comfort food. Picture it in your mind and picture your stomach full of it. It should make you happy. It should make you satisfied. You're like, yes, mac and cheese. Like, for me, it's lasagna. Like, for me, I picture like I'm so satisfied. I feel like I just ate a pound of lasagna and I just feel full and I feel happy and I'm tired. Relationships don't give you wholeness. The Lord does. The Lord is the only one who gives you wholeness. Not everyone even gets married, and that's okay. God does not call every person to always get married. Paul the Apostle lived his whole life being single, and that was good. He didn't get his wholeness from a relationship, and he didn't die a half of a person because he never got married. He was whole because of the Lord. The Lord is the one who makes you whole. First, be made whole by the Lord. Be satisfied, filled with him, secure in him, and then maybe pursue a relationship out of that wholeness. That's where you start. Number 2, when you feel the Lord leading you into it, that is an important part of it. You need to feel the Lord leading you into it. Out of this satisfaction in the Lord, pray, connect with him, and test your heart to see if God is leading you into a relationship. And if he is, it might be a relationship worth pursuing and keeping. Pray this prayer constantly over your heart. This is a very important prayer for us in Psalm 139. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me, know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Pray this prayer in the context of your relationships, in the context of dating. Ask God for his prompting in order to go for it. Number 3, when you have the support of a godly community, of your godly community. As one of the greatest temptations in dating, and especially during the dopamine stage of dating, is the temptation to isolate yourselves. It's very difficult not to do that. You become so infatuated with your boyfriend or girlfriend that they're the only person you want to see. They're the only person you want to talk to. They're the only person you want to think about. But trust me, giving into this isolation is not good for you. It's not good for your boyfriend, girlfriend. It's not good for the relationship. Date in community. Keep your godly friends close. Keep your church community close. Keep your family close. The support of your family and your boyfriend, girlfriend's family is super important. They really matter. To a guy, a pretty girl that you're interested in might just be someone who looks really good and smells really good. It makes you feel all the feels in your heart. Fills your head with dopamine. That's what that girl is to you. But to her dad, she's this little girl that he held in his arms and he rocked to sleep when she was 6 months old. That he helped take her very first steps. And her first words were probably his name, Daddy. Him and her mom are a part of the picture. They are. They're an important, vital part of the picture. If you're going to date her, and her relationship with her parents should also matter to you. And that obviously flips both ways. If a relationship requires you to damage your relationship with your parents or your family, or the person you're dating, their relationship with their parents, if that relationship requires a damage in that relationship, then it's not a God-honoring one. And it's not one worth pursuing. Do not pursue a relationship that isolates you. If it's isolating you from other believers in family, it's probably isolating you from God too. And that's a hard truth, but it's a really important one for you guys to hear. Do not pursue a relationship that isolates you. The last one might sound weird, but I mean it. You will know when you're ready. After all three of these things, then ask yourself this question. When you actually want to. Think about that question. Now, I made this the last one because, like I said before, for most people, this is the only factor that counts. Do you want to? Yes or no? Then you're good. You're all set. This needs to come after you've already met the other 3 things. After your heart is satisfied in the Lord, after you've pursued him and you've sought his guidance and leading in a relationship, after you have the support of a godly community, all of that, ask yourself, do you actually want to date? Or do you feel like you just should want to date? Because there's a big difference. Do you feel like you actually, truly, in your own heart, want to date? Or do you just feel like it's a social pressure that you're expected to want to date? That it's just like expected of you, and people around you are dating, and your friends are dating. But really deep down inside, it just kind of makes you uncomfortable. And you're like, yeah, I don't really know if I want that. There is no one age where you're just suddenly ready. There's no one age. I think there are a ton of 20-somethings who really shouldn't be dating. I do. But make sure that if you do pursue a relationship, you're pursuing it out of an actual desire that you want to date, and not just out of surrounding pressure around you to date someone. Test your heart here and know if you actually want to or if you don't. Because the Song of Solomon is a book of poetry about love. So if you thought that the Bible was just a bunch of lame rules with nothing interesting in it, read Song of Solomon. It is very interesting. It is incredibly interesting. It's proof that God is not just some prude who just wants you to have a bad time and not enjoy sex. That's just the proof. It's Song of Solomon itself. It shows that love is a part of the human experience and how God created us, but it also gives wisdom and how to pursue it rightly in the way that he designed it. One of the places of wisdom is Song of Solomon 8:4. It says, daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. I don't need a sermon or a seminary degree to know what that means. It's simple. Don't rush love. I feel like that should be a song, but it's not. They're all the opposite. Rush love! Yeah, but no, it's don't rush love. Don't plunge into dating until you're actually ready, until you actually want to. That's an important part of it. Don't force yourself to pursue a relationship out of some outside pressure. It needs to be when you're actually ready for it. My goal here, out of someone who deeply cares for you guys and wants the best for you, is that you experience actual freedom and wholeness in this part of your life that you're going to have. And it's a good part of your life. It's a part that God wants to be a part of. Pursue him in it. It's so huge. It's so important. And this can be a really good thing. It's kind of a joke that Bryce was talking about how when he was growing up, his youth group was like, dating bad, love bad, romance bad, right? There's a lot of that in past generations and in some Christian circles. Not all of them, obviously. Not everyone did it wrong, but it did happen. That's not God's design for us. My experience dating Sarah was a good one, and we were seeking the Lord the whole time. We didn't do everything right. We're not perfect, but we were seeking the Lord the whole time. And I look back at that, I'm like, that was awesome. High school was awesome. I was dating Sarah, and it was so great. And we had a relationship that was strong. It was whole. It was God-centered. It came out of. I was not this really just insecure person. Now, if I had been dating as a sophomore, I would have been. Trust me, that was rough. That was not the case going into my senior year. It was different. And it was a good thing. And I just want to encourage you guys, pursue the Lord in this. It's going to be a good thing. It really is. Next week, we're going to talk, next week is the last week on this. And we're going to talk about actually, if you're not ready, what you do in the meantime. What you should be doing in the meantime. If you are, then how you actually pursue a good, God-honoring relationship. All right, guys, let's have a life group on that.
Bye, guys.